Welcome. Welcome those of you who are joining us. You're live with Faisal Hassan, NDP, Facebook.com tonight. Before we begin, I wish to acknowledge at this time the land that we know, York Southwestern, is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chepway, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuits, Métis people. Thank you for joining us this evening. This evening's important celebration. Our province and our country has a long, rich history of Black excellence, one that is too often ignored. For generations, Black Canadians have been distributing the Black Canadians have been contributing to the political, cultural, and economic fabric of our society. We honor those leaders and celebrate the local Black leaders doing the valuable work of supporting our community today. I welcome my guests tonight who are joined this evening will be Jacqueline Dorr and Newell of the Black Farmers Collective, as well as also Chevron Benjamin, Grenda Day Committee, and Romaine Baker, co-founder of Black Urbanism Toronto, and Jackie Thompson, artist to artist, and Zakaya Tafare, Afri-Can FoodBasket, is also here tonight joining. And soon, of course, other two guests will be joining us, and soon we'll be having those discussions. But first, every February in Canada, in Ontario, we celebrate Black History Month to honor the legacy of Black Canadians and African descent. The International Decade for People of African Descent, proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 68-237, begin in 2015 and will be observed until 2024. The theme for the International Decade is of the people of African descent is recognition, justice, and development. The objectives of the International Decade includes promoting respect, protection of the human rights and the fundamental freedoms of people of African descent, as well as encouraging a greater knowledge of and respect for the diversity, heritage, culture, and contributions of those communities in society around the world. Tonight, we are honoring Canadians of African descent and their role in Canadian history and society for the Black History Month. Black History Month, and the future is now, is a chance to celebrate and acknowledge the transformative work that Black Canadians and their communities are doing. And as I already mentioned, and I want to also ask my guest to also turn on their camera so that our guest could also see you. And also, we are also live on Facebook. And also, I would like first to welcome Romaine Baker to speak about the wonderful work he's speaking, and then I'll turn into Chevron and then Tafari.
Hi, MPP Hassan. Just for scope, how much information do you want me to share?
Well, just you're doing a work. I know you have been contributing so much in the community, and this is just reflection as well about, and we are celebrating your contribution and your work in the community as well. So you could also start wherever you want.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Romaine Baker. I am a co-founder of Black Urbanism TO. We are a nonprofit organization that was incorporated in 2018 out of the need for Black residents and Black people to be more intimately involved in community development work. I live in York Southwestern, close to Eglinton West, and that neighborhood has been undergoing a lot of change because of the LRT construction. It's impacted the businesses tremendously. A lot of businesses have closed down. And, being, a resident in the area, I literally drive by and see these businesses, disappearing right before our eyes. And so, doing a bit of research, we found out that, the city had a plan called Eglinton Connects that would, be planning for the future of Eglinton, to build off of the new LRT construction that will be happening. And this plan would be looking at the development of condos, development of essentially just transforming the entire Eglinton corridor from, at the time it was just from Mount Dennis to Kennedy. We see that the LRT line is going to be extended further west. But it would essentially transform Eglinton with mid-rise condominiums and a lot of changes that would essentially displace business owners and people that have been living in this area for decades. And so as we looked through that plan, we saw that there was really no acknowledgement of this neighborhood of that we call Little Jamaica, which is an unofficial name. There was no real recognition of the history of that area, the people that reside and have built businesses and community in that area. And so we saw that as a real threat to this community, the fact that there was absolutely no acknowledgement. And so we got to work, and we are not planners by trade. But we understand that these are planning policies that are being used to essentially transform this community. And so we have engaged business owners who we consider a key stakeholder in the development of this area. We've engaged them, and we try to help to build their capacity by actually sharing information with them about this plan, Eglinton Connects, which many of them had never heard of before. So we wanted them to understand what the city was planning for the area, to understand their response to it, and what were their, what was their vision for the community as well. And so we did a consultation last February. Yeah, it was great. It's actually this time last year we were having the consultation, and so we compiled all those findings in a report called the Black Business Conversations, and we released that report last summer. And that report has been a tremendous tool to really disrupt that process that was happening. And so we got the support of local councillors, of city staff, and the motion actually went forward to essentially ensure that Little Jamaica remains a community that's intact, so that businesses can continue to thrive there and residents can continue to live there, and that it will be a place that we can be proud of as Black people, that can support future generations of Black Canadians. So we're really proud of that work.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. And that's, again, the International Decade for the African Descent, proclaimed by the United Nations, has first recognition, justice, and development. And that's exactly, we need to also recognize and also bring development. And that's also the folks, Blacks in Canada has been over 400 years. And that's also, I know that the disruptions of the Eglinton crosstowns has also caused so much difficulty, financial difficulties, and definitely we need to work with that. I'll bring quickly Chevron Benjamin, Grenda Day Committee, and also I know Maria Myers also works closely with Chevron Benjamin, and that was one of the biggest celebrations. We celebrate Grenda Day in right here in our community in every August. Chevron, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me. As you said, I'm Siobhan Benjamin. I am literally a volunteer with the Grenda Day Committee. Now, the speaker before me, you gave me a mouthful, an earful, a handful, everything, and I'm quite impressed. we focus predominantly on culture. As you said, Grenda Day is literally one of the biggest celebrated culture event in Toronto, in Ontario, as a matter of fact. So what we do is we focus a lot on keeping our culture alive, educating our people through our culture. Now, the thing about keeping culture alive, especially our Black culture, is knowing the past. It literally opens the door to the future. Yeah. And so the continuing importance of Black history is something we literally believe that should not be, I don't want to jump the gun here, celebrated just for 1 month, because it's our legacy, it's our lifetime. So what we outside of the Grenada Day itself, we try our best to spread the word, to keep it in the air. So people is always aware, people are always knowledgeable, people are always, where we're constantly ponging it to them. So other than the fact that we do the Grenada Day to bring all Grenadians together, we support other countries, predominantly Black, of course. We support our sister islands in their events as well, because what we believe is, even though we operate in isolation, if we come together and we form a bigger and a stronger bond, we can make marks and we can do more than we're doing now. And we would even be surprised at what we can do only if we work together. So outside of the fact that we do Grenada Day, yes, it's a big event, it celebrates, people look forward to it. And we keep our culture alive, because we think that through our culture, that's the only way our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to come will remember our history. Because it's not taught in schools, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So if they know a song, or they remember a dance and they know the story behind the dance, then we're keeping our culture and our legacy alive.
Absolutely, and that's important. That this is why we are reflecting, about the contributions of the Black community here in our community. And I know that Grenada Day is big in here. We celebrate not only one day, a couple of days.
Everything you can think about, Grenadians celebrate,
Yes,
because we
exactly.
want you to always know, you celebrate your independence. People need to know the importance of your independence. Most people don't know the story as to how you got independence, why your forefathers even fought for independence. It's
Right.
shocking and it's sad that when you ask your young children nowadays, they can't tell you. So we celebrate independence to keep that in people's mind. We have our Grenada Days to keep our culture in the forefront. We have other days to make sure that people are cognizant of the fact that this is what happened, this is what should be happening, and this is what will be happening as long as we can.
Very good. I'll bring quickly Zakaya Tafar, whom I know and who has done so much work with Juma House, and now he's also leading the African Canadian FoodBasket, which also feeding much of our community here. And I know that Zakaya's mother has also made history. He will tell us more about that. Welcome, Zakaya.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here to be part of this event. Black History Month, as some of the other folks have said, our history, it's just history, in my opinion. It shouldn't be specified to Black history. I'm specifically involved in this because I've lived and grown up in Western Mount Dennis from a young kid till growing up into a man, a father. I've done a lot of different community work, and I'm really glad for my community. And as the last guest mentioned, my culture is very important to me, and preserving my culture and doing what I can do to kind of contribute and keep it going. That is what encourages me to be part of community and doing social work. It's actually my grandmother that I'm going to talk about today. We call her the matriarch of our family. Her name is Irma James. She's actually the first Black woman to work for the TTC. After migrating up here from Trinidad, leaving her whole family back home and coming up here to try to set up a better life, she went to Humber College and was pursuing becoming a school bus driver. And after completing that process, she actually set some higher heights and applied to be a bus driver. At that time, that's not something that women did. That's also not something that any Black women did. And she was able to break that barrier and open up that career, which has actually led to her really setting a foundation for us. And a lot of that foundation was actually built here in Western Mount Dennis. I was born in Canada, but I came back to Canada after growing up in the Caribbean in 1989, and she had just bought a house. And, since then, I've kind of been back and forth between, having an apartment in the area, but also living and supporting her. And what I've realized and what she's kind of really done for me and many of our family members is show the importance of legacy. You know, she had done such tremendous work. So then, you know, my mom coming up after her, you know, looking to carve her own path. My mom actually started one of the first Afrocentric schools here in Toronto. It was called Umoja Learning Circle. You know, this was a private African-centered school that followed the Ontario curriculum that operated for over 20 years. You know, so again, I had these great examples of seeing individuals within my family doing different things for community. And, you know, everything kind of coming full circle now, well, last year, where I got very involved in an organization that my dad founded 25 years ago called the Afri-Can FoodBasket, which main focus was addressing food insecurity within the Black community. A notion that's been heightened because of the COVID pandemic, excuse me. And, you know, within that work, we were working with the City of Toronto to develop what's called a Black Food Sovereignty Alliance to really look at how do we have more control over our food, more say of what we have access to in terms of communities, and also supporting our cultural diets. You know, many of us, we come from different countries, our ancestry, and what many don't know or acknowledge is that our ancestral diet is actually really critical and important to us. You know, having access to foods that we grew up on or food that our ancestors grew up on is critical to our health and our well-being. So that's been our mandate. Since the COVID pandemic has started, we launched something called Black Food Toronto, blackfoodtoronto.com. It's an emergency food support initiative where we purchase wholesale fruits and vegetables, pack them and distribute them to members of Toronto's African Caribbean Black community. We do this work out of Western Mount Dennis, 1901 Weston Road. We operate currently out of Ujima House, which is an organization that I was also involved in for a number of years.
Yes.
Since May of last year, we have packed and distributed over 11,000 food baskets and helped easily over 8,000 families. You know, we started doing this work on our own. Since then, we've partnered with a number of other organizations such as Afri-Can Family Services, Taibu Community Health Center, A Supreme Foundation. And ultimately, the mission is just to make sure folks have access to fresh, healthy food and where possible, culturally sensitive food. So I really enjoy doing this work, and it's a bittersweet job for me because I enjoy going out and being able to interact with people, but sometimes it kind of hits me hard seeing how appreciative people are just to get access to some fresh food, you know, mangoes, avocados, sweet potatoes, plantain, things that growing up I kind of took for granted because it was always available in the many households that I've lived in through family. And, you know, there are folks who don't even have access to the basic necessities. So when they're able to get something like this, it's amazing. They're able to prepare a cultural meal, which during these times of isolations and hardships, you know, it takes them to a nicer place. So it's been great to see what my family's done and do my part to carry on our legacy.
Well, thank you, Zakaya. Those of you who are joining us, you're joining us facebook.com, Faisal Hassan, NDP. And we are tonight celebrating and honoring Black History Month. And as my guest, Chevron Benjamin, said, that we don't only celebrate Black history only 1 month, but we celebrate around the year, 365 days. And I know that, Zakaya, you have done so much work. I know that Ujima House does actually a work helping young Black fathers be good fathers and also learn how to also be focusing the lives of their children. Could you also speak about, I mean, you've done so much. I know I've known you since 2007, you know, all in the community and doing so many great things, you know. Could you talk about your work before about Ujima House as well?
So Ujima House is now, I believe this year would be celebrating its 11th year in operation. And it was actually developed as Canada's first father-focused family center. When you listen to the news, you hear about gun violence, you hear about young people, young men specifically getting in trouble. There was always a narration of fatherlessness within the Black community, which we know is a stereotype that is not true and accurate. But the reality is there was no supports for those who did face those challenges. So Ujima House was created as a safe space for fathers, racialized fathers, to be able to come and learn how to be their best selves. You know, it was more than just learning about being a father. It was really about the whole individual. So we created a space where we offered parenting programs. We also offered different community events, and ultimately a place where any individual could kind of come in, say that they're having some challenges, and we'd see how we could provide support to them. Some of the highlights over the years is we hosted one of the first Father's Day festivals in Western Mount Dennis at, I'm forgetting the name of the park, but it's right by Little Avenue across from Shoppers. And, that was just a vision that myself and the team had. And, with the support of various levels of government, including the city of Toronto, we were able to put on a festival that attracted, hundreds of people to be able to come out and celebrate fathers and celebrate Black fatherhood at the same time. So definitely it's a space where young men who, if they're feeling challenged, they're having issues, they can definitely connect with the staff. I'm no longer there, but I still work very closely with that group. I've since moved on and kind of taken that same initiative in terms of supporting fathers to Scarborough, to sort of take the learnings that I've learned there and extend that to the east end of the city, because, we're all one city, and the more support that can be available, the better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And those of you who are joining us Facebook Live, I will also try to also include your comments. And if you have also questions for us, for me, and for my guest for the honoring and celebrating Black History Month, you're also welcome. And those joining us, all of you, I say once again, welcome. And this question for all of my guests, and what does it mean to you, Black History Month? Let's reflect. Maybe we'll start, Romain, and then we could, and then any of you can jump in.
All right. Black History Month has kind of evolved for me as I've, gotten older and, had a greater sense of self and connection to those who came before me. I think it is, learning about the history of our people in the countries in which we live, especially when there are efforts to, erase it and, overlook it, undermine it. But it's also, connecting, like going beyond that. Because for me, the Black history, like for example, in Canada, is very much, that's European history. Though that's still their story. That's not my, you know what I mean? I think our story stands independent of the struggles and the evils that have been done over the last 400 years. And so for me, Black history is going back to the continent and learning about our peoples and, their triumphs, their stories, their, that humanity that has been taken away, restoring it to our people in their setting. So I've spent a lot of time studying about the Akan, the Igbo people, the Yoruba people from West Africa that we know were taken, but I wanted to know about them before, and it's been a very wholesome activity for me. I feel a strong connection there, and I can see how there are aspects of those cultures that have been retained in my Caribbean Jamaican culture in terms of our language and the songs and the music, and ultimately it gives me a greater sense of connectivity with my brothers and sisters here, because we are essentially, we came from the same places. We just we were maybe taken to a different port, came on a different ship, but we have a common experience. And Black history it's really an opportunity to just delve in and reconnect. Like my sister Siobhan said, that's something we do 365 days of the year, but this time you can do it out loud, and I think it's a great opportunity to do that. Very
good. And Siobhan, I mean, you could come in and reflect on what it means to you, that month that we are coming together, celebrating, reflecting. I know that the Blacks have been here over 400 years, and also some historians say even before that, this land. And that's also some part of also, if you look at also the history of the Loyalists, like people like Richard Pierpoint, who have also fought for, the British, the Loyalists, and also settled in part of the Upper Canada. And that also contribution of the Blacks, not only on Ontario, but also Blacks have contributed liberating France and also Great Britain and much of Western Europe. That too has not been taught to schools, and that's also very important. The young people and also the Europeans know that the Blacks have been part of that contribution for today's freedom and liberty that much of the Western world is also celebrating and enjoying, and that is also part of who we are in that sense. I'll bring Siobhan quickly on that. Maybe you can reflect those contributions you're doing today, and also reflections of our ancestors.
Following up on what my colleague, I would call him my colleague because we're not all on the same panel, before me said, even though we don't know each other, that's okay, you're my brother.
Mm.
Following up on what he said, and what's striking to me in what he said is culturally we may think we're different, but that's a mistake that we all have in the back of our mind. We're all the same, right? And Black history to me means going back, learning, appreciating the contribution that my people would have made. The contributions that are not out there, it's not published. We have to dig deep, far and wide to find it. For instance, I am Grenadian, as I mentioned before, and I only found out about 2 years ago that the first Black woman elected to the House of Commons, that was the most effective Liberal, she was very advocate, especially for educational programs, was Jean Augustine, and she's Grenadian. And look how long it took me to find that out, right? So it's things like these we need to know. For instance, we grew up in the Caribbean. Everybody seems to have a Caribbean link there. You grew up in the Caribbean, and in school they teach you your history, and the history they taught you was about Christopher Columbus, a man who came from Spain, who killed all the people that was on our island and inhabited the island and said it's his. But they're not telling you about the people that was there before. The people that were there before, our forefathers, our grandparents that we know nothing about. These are the things that I want to learn about. And you can't learn all that in a month, because I can't focus on my history in a month. As I said before, my history is a lifetime. Food, for instance. I don't know what fufu is, but it seems to be an African delicacy, but I want to try it. So I put up a Facebook post and I said, where can I find fufu and the soup that they eat it with? And the question everybody asking is, which African one do you want? I didn't even know there was different varieties, Somalian, Ghanaian, Nigerian, right? But the issue is fried plantain, for instance. No matter where you come from in the world, that's a Black person's delicacy. So we're all connected, and we don't even know it, through our culture, through our food, through our dance, through the way we speak. We may have 15 different dialects and languages, but we're all connected. And as long as we continue to teach our young people, and we don't wait just for February to do that, it will stay. And they too will learn to appreciate what our people would have done. And they will learn to appreciate the hardship that they went through to ensure that we're comfortable today, right? We don't want Black history to only become an issue, or Black communities are focused on, or they give inequality when something happens, someone is killed and everybody makes an uproar. You don't want that to happen. It should be equality across the board, right? And so maybe that's why we strive to keep culture alive, so our Black people could, firstly, we need to appreciate our own history. If we don't appreciate it, they won't appreciate it for us, right? We're not supposed to lessen our conviction for compassion. It's ours, and if we don't appreciate it, nobody will. So let's start by appreciating our own first. Then we'll appreciate yours, and maybe we'll get the others to appreciate what we have.
Absolutely, and also that's also very important to reflect, in curriculums, in schools, and also in universities, to make sure that people are learning not only a bit here, but the whole contribution of the Black people have contributed much of the globe in that sense. And I think those who are also here in Ontario, we should be celebrating. And I know that I'll bring my friend Zakaya Tafare, who also just told us the contributions Trailblazer from his grandmother. I thought it was your mother, but it was your grandmother. Thank you for correcting me that. But I think, what does that mean to you, her contribution to the TTC, to the City of Toronto, to Ontario, and also others similar to your grandmother and their contributions to our province?
Well, I mean, if I may just touch on the original question you asked in terms of like, what does Black History Month mean to me? I would definitely say it means celebrating our excellence and our greatness, which is something that takes more than just a month. And as I've grown up, I've realized how fortunate and privileged that I am to have been part of this great family where, you know, what some people only get for a month or a couple of days within a month has been my entire life experience. You know, having been involved in the not-for-profit organizations, I've actually stayed away from doing events during Black History Month because most places that I have worked and managed, our mandate has been to promote our greatness 365 days a year. So to me, Black History Month also means, you know, unity and connecting with others and sharing that greatness so that those who may not have known something can learn something and maybe find something deep within themselves. You know, as I mentioned with respects to my grandmother, she created a legacy for us all to kind of follow within. And it's allowed all of us in different ways to see how do we now contribute to that family legacy and do our best to add value to community, to break stereotypes, and to show that Black excellence is something that is real, something that can be, you know, part of the average person you may walk by. It may not be big fanfare, it may not be, you know, on every billboard and TV, but we have to start to embrace that within our own ways. And, you know, even an event like this, where you're allowing a platform for me and my colleagues, my brothers and sisters on this call, to share some of that and our insights. To me, that's what Black History Month is about. And I'm glad to be able to have a vocation that allows me to do that 365 days a year.
Amazing. That's an awesome. And I think now our sister here, Chevron Benjamin, have mentioned Jean Augustine, and I think she was also instrumental, if I may, that also celebrating Black History Month was her work, and honoring that too is part of Black History Month as well. She's a friend of mine. I've been, you know, someone I really admire her hard work and her contribution to the community. And that's too celebrating her contribution as a member of the community. And she's also a heritage part of the Grenada. Could you talk what that Jean Augustine means to you in that sense? You know, and her contribution, even the month of February, Black History Month, I think that was her motion at the House of Commons that paved the way even to have a Black History Month to celebrate together as a community, to come together and reflect. That was her work at the House of Commons. And I mean, she talked about many occasions, the challenges that happened there, but she was very successful of getting all the members of the legislature of all political parties there to support it, which was very successful. So maybe Chevron could also maybe reflect that, what that meant for you and her contribution as a Grenada Day Committee member.
Prior to my involvement in Grenada Day, honestly, I know nothing about her, only that she's Grenadian and she was elected to the House of Commons, because the people back at her native land don't even know that. And then I get involved and I've started researching my own little history and I've started picking up little things about her. And then I've started appreciating the fact that she did so much that has been understated. It was underappreciated. It was not even celebrated, right? She did so much as a Black woman that not only she needs to be taught to our children in terms of our history, she needs to be emulated, might be a strong word to use, if you are pretty much involved in in keeping Black history alive. Now, her work is an encouragement. Firstly, because she is a small islander, as we would call her, who came out to a big city, just as my friend's grandmother did. And she came for a better opportunity, and she would have gotten that opportunity, but also used that opportunity to enhance and make opportunities for more people. So as a result of her work, many Black people would have gotten to places that they didn't think they would have gotten to just because of her work. She served as encouragement. Now, Gina Gustin, I've met her a few times, and I sat and I looked at her and I'm saying in my mind, oh, that little lady. But she's a little Black lady that's powerful in terms of her thoughts, in terms of her actions or thinking, and in terms of her attributes. Now, if we had more like her, hopefully one day I may be like her. If we had more like her, the Black community in Toronto would have been a force to reckon with when it comes to females. Now, the encouragement I'm getting from her is to try my best to do as she did. I would not be her, but I can try my best to do as she did. Now, her main focus was keeping Black history, Black excellence, getting it celebrated. And to me, she did that. So when I saw her face on a billboard last week, I smiled. And I said to myself, there is Miss Gina Gustin. Now she is up on that billboard, she's on that bus, and everybody's looking at her. And I'm hoping that little children are asking their moms, who is this? And they're saying she's the first Black woman to be elected into the House of Commons. You could also do the same. So I'm hoping that what she did served as encouragement to us and to other parents and to children to want to be like her.
Very good. That's very powerful. Absolutely. And any one of you would want to comment there?
If I could jump in real quick, Jean there's an energy about her. I've been fortunate to meet her, several times, work on events with her. And there's for me, there's I guess
there's an air.
Many West,
there's an air around her that consumes you.
Yes. Growing up in the West Indies, I was born here in Toronto. I grew up in Trinidad, Guyana, St. Lucia. And so to me, I have many aunties and grandmas. So Jean's, in my opinion, she's one of my grandmas. Anytime I see her, I have to give her a hug. COVID makes that hard. So I'm glad I haven't seen her, because holding back would be so hard. But there's just this aura about her, where she that excellence that she has carried over the years and still carries to this day. It's amazing. And every time I see her, I get goosebumps because I'm seeing history. I'm seeing a woman who paved a great path for us and has created, this month that we can celebrate, at a time when it was very difficult. We faced a lot of challenges. We still do as a people, but she was able to get us recognized and get this month where, for generations to come, we can continue to celebrate our excellence and our greatness. So I'm grateful to have known her. My daughter has been able to meet her, and the same thing, first time they met, I was really instrumental in making sure that we got a picture, because this moment is history for my daughter, and I want her to be able to remember that when she was a young child, she got to meet this great Black woman who has done so much and paved paths for her that she won't even understand until she's older. So, I thank you for highlighting her on this.
Well, thank you. That was actually, Chevron remember it actually, and I remember it. She was instrumental for actually that motion for the House of Commons. Maybe Raman could mention if you have any reflections on that.
Thank you, MPP Hassan. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her, but I always marvel at, the the ability to, pave that path, like has been mentioned, for generations to come, at a time when, like we look around now, we see a lot of, Black people here. And it seems like it's the norm, but in those periods of time, it wasn't as common. Our community wasn't as big, wasn't as strong. And I really love that idea of emulating. It's like we have that example. And obviously, we do have those firsts, and those firsts, they went through various struggles to get to where they got. But the fact that that door has been open, I think is a huge, we have to keep it open, because in many respects, I feel like it's like a swing. It closed back. Now we don't see, you know, but those things are changing, but it just needs to be commonplace that, you know, we are, you know, represented at all levels of government. That,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm doing a call. You can't open the door.
You can continue. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all right.
I'll come up when I'm done.
Yeah, I think don't worry about that. And I think we could, I think you're right. I mean, that's something, I mean, very, everybody remembers the work she's done, there's no doubt about that. And I see here a couple of, I was also one of the African conference that happened a year ago, where I attended on behalf of the official opposition and the Black Caucus, and she was there. So she was welcoming, you know, and energetic, and also, you know, very excited, you know, the work she continues to do.
I know, because she's not boastful. The first time I met her, it was at a forum to do with Grenada and the diaspora, and we were both literally contradicting each other. And one person nudged me, and the person was like, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like, "No, but she has a voice, I have a voice, just the same." And the lady said to me, "That's Gina Costin." And I'm like, "Who is Gina Costin?" And she says, "You don't know your Grenadian history?" And I was embarrassed to say no. And so I sat down, thank God for Google, and I Googled Gina Costin, and all of these things popped up. And I was surprised. I felt a little embarrassed because I was so aggressive in terms of me being opposite to her in terms of what we were saying. And then I went to her and I spoke to her after, and she's not boastful. She just has an aura that, oh my God, it makes you feel so welcome. But then we spoke, and one of my friends would have said to me, when you see her and you think of the work she did, and I have to repeat it here today, what she did literally is an opportunity for us to rewrite and reclaim the narrative of our history. Now, and his words were, our history is being told by it's from the perspective of the majority. And the majority literally are people who do not know your history. So they're reciting what they have heard. But she fought so hard, and she paved the way for us to celebrate this month, that we can use this month every year to start rewriting the narrative of our history. Good as well as bad, it doesn't matter. But it's an opportunity to reflect on both the contributions and the challenges of our people.
Absolutely. And also a trailblazer person, Zanara Akande, who was also the first Black minister, the provincial government, the NDP government of Bob Rae here in Ontario, also has contributed so much in the community by also done a lot of work of human rights issues, and also work that are very vital, also the work in the provincial. And that's also something we also thank her. She still leads in our community and does a lot of positive work, Zananda Akande. Have any one of you met her? Zananda Akande?
I have not, I can't say.
Yeah.
I have not, so.
Yes, so I have.
Whoever she is, thank you for your contribution. Thank you so much.
Indeed, yes. And there are many of you, also many women, members of our community, who are doing a fantastic job here. One of them is also Jackie Thomas, artist to artist. I mean, right here in our community, and also the urban arts, Marlene also is doing a fantastic job, as you are well. So, and organizations that exist here, the culture, over 30 years in the community, and that they're doing so much good. And also, the Black Farmers Collective, Jacqueline Dorr is also also doing, creating also, a lot of work in the community. There's so many folks we can reflect their work and their contribution. Also, you here tonight, you are also doing work that is continuous, of continuations of those work that folks we've talked about. And maybe you could also share our audiences, and I'm also looking to also their comments. Excuse me, so that if they have any comments, our audience that are also joining us live. We can also contribute them quickly and maybe read quickly. But there isn't really, there is some comments, but we can do that at the end quickly. But I know you touched a bit about the work you do, and do you want to also? I know the Maria Myers, who also work with you, Chevron. Coordination's been doing a lot of work because I'm aware, because I was working very closely with her for many, many years. So tell us this year, I know last year was a challenge to have even Grenada Day, right? So what are the plans for this year for the community? And what are you doing?
Of course, 2020 was a horrible year, and most people are saying, thank God I survived that year. I think that was supposed to be the year of the apocalypse, but it just didn't happen. But we did do a Grenada Day event, and it was virtual, and the support still was tremendous. Now for 2021, that's this year, hopefully, God's willing, fingers crossed. We're a Christian people, so feet crossed, fingers crossed, we're praying that the vaccine works somehow and the virus goes her merry way. We're going to be having the event again. And in addition to the event, hopefully we get permission and we have time to do a little bit more other events that promotes Grenadian history and culture. And while we're at it, we're going to also be supporting our Jamaican, our Trinidadians as usual. Because you know Maria, she works with everybody. If she gets a chance, she's working with the police, she's working with the politicians, she's working with every single soul out there. So we're going to be working with a number of these organizations to promote their culture, to promote their history, to teach their tradition to people. So for instance, even though I'm Grenadian, it doesn't matter. I could learn Trinidadian culture by going to their events and supporting their events. I can learn a song. Well, we know all Trinidadian songs. All Caribbean people know all Caribbean people music. But we're trying to get a lot of these. And I think her intention is that one day all these Caribbean countries, as I mentioned before, can come together and form one umbrella body. So even though we have our individual events, we could also have this big cultural event that promotes our history, that promotes our culture, that promotes our tradition, and we develop a greater appreciation and understanding of each other's and learn to appreciate it more. And then when we do that, then we can, as I said before, get others on board, and they too will day by day gain a better understanding of what we do, what we did, what we're doing, what we want to do, what we went through, what we want you to understand. And we don't just want, and I keep saying that, we don't want compassion, we want support. Compassion means you're sorry and you're giving me pity. We don't want that, we want support. The same way we give it to you, because we have a culture of giving support, we're very hospitable, we want the same.
Very good. And last, I know that the 2019, you had a huge location on the Dunsview Park.
Yes, we did.
And is that's where it's going to be?
It's going. We're looking at keeping it there for a while.
Very good. Yes, I mean, and very good. And that's, I mean, definitely I will be there. You know,
Definitely, you have to.
Food and the music and the crowd. It's always, you guys put a fantastic a show there. You know?
Yeah, and it's like a family day as well, because you would come together, would sit, and I think it's at the event where you learn a lot of your history, because you sit in your old talk and you have the elder folk telling you what they did before, what their grandparents did, and how it compares to what we're doing now, and so forth. So it's a really fun event. I'm inviting my two friends there on the live.
Oh, good.
I'm remembering your faces, so.
Very good. So good. We'll do that quickly. And maybe I know you're doing a fantastic job in terms of talking about you are the co-founder of the Black Urbanism Toronto, which also, you know, the work you're doing is also align also the International Decade of African Descent with the United Nations. Also, you know, the work it requires for recognition, justice, and development, to also give that developments and justice and recognition to the Black community. And it starts right here in Toronto, where many communities that have been affected through the Eglinton corridor constructions and also that recognition and development continuation is very important. Could you maybe talk your vision there?
Definitely. I think in terms of vision, you know, this decade really, I think a few weeks back there was a kickoff event that spoke about, you know, the decade and the fact that it really hasn't been, you know, recognized here in Canada, in Toronto, through the media. Nobody's really talking about it, and we're at the tail end of it now. It's almost over. But our vision is to, you know, see Eglinton play a role in changing the trajectory of our experience here in Canada. Having a center of culture, economy, you know, social space where people can convene as like a center of strength that serves the GTA, because people come from all over the GTA for years for, you know, the goods and the services that are offered in this area, and that we want to see that enhanced. We want to see that being, like, you know, for the Black communities to be actively participating in building out this space to, you know, where, you know, we can come and like my sister was talking about, you know, actually learning about our traditions and culture. Children that are born here, especially when they're 2 or 3 generations removed from the home country, they have absolutely, unless it's being done intentionally, where that transference is happening, it's it is not happening. And so there's a disconnection of the, like, you know, of a sense of self. You think about, okay, you know, what does it mean to be a Black Canadian? And that's being defined by other people in so many different ways. And I think there's a real need for us to have that transference of knowledge, of traditions, of culture, of sense of being and belonging, and be rooted. Um, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent because, you know, you look at youth that are born abroad and they come here and their sense of self is so different. They have a different sense of self, a different level of appreciation for opportunities that are here. There's a level of understanding. And I don't think that we necessarily have, and so there are some cultures that intentionally send their children back home, and then they come back here when they're at the age to, you know, go to high school or university, and that their trajectory is different from their peers who were just born here and grew up here. And I think we can still have that same effect without having to necessarily send our children back home. We can have that those elements in the upbringing here. You know, we need to learn our languages, and we need to learn so many different things. And I think Eglinton can be like a real ecosystem of, you know, businesses, nonprofits, like social services that are being offered. And we just really want to see, you know, we want our Black communities to understand what is happening in that area and to really turn their attention to Eglinton, you know, to look to it as a place to, you know, establish their businesses and organizations that are going to be doing work to serve the broader community.
Well, thank you. And
Okay, so can I interject and ask a question? Is that allowed?
yeah, you could. I just want to bring first Zaka for him to speak a bit about what he does and the work he's doing. I know he touched a bit, but you can expand quickly. I will come to you after Shabran quickly.
Well, thank you. Before I expand on the work we're doing, you know, I just want to, you know, show how things are kind of so connected. So the African FoodBasket was actually first, the inception of the African FoodBasket actually did take place on Eglinton. It was, I forget which, but the office was right at actually Eglinton and Dufferin. So much of our foundation actually came through there. And when we started as a bulk food buying club, we actually partnered with a lot of the various businesses that have unfortunately since closed on that strip that provided produce. We actually bought together with them to be able to pass on savings to individuals. So definitely the rich history of Eglinton, it's critical, it's vital, in my opinion, to Black history within Toronto. Definitely as a young person who went to a lot of parties and fetes, late night, you can always swing by Wraps and, get something to eat 24 hours a day, get something nice and cultural. And with respects to a lot of what my sister Siobhan was saying, my great grandmother is actually Grenadian. Most people who are Trinidadian have ancestry through Grenada. Our people were displaced a lot, but as she mentioned earlier, so much of our cultural traditions are so similar. And I'm really proud of the work they've done. I've followed and I've actually worked alongside them over many years. I very much call myself a proud Trinidadian, and I love my soca music. But over the last couple of years, being able to see how Grenada in Toronto has really been able to grow and shine and share their culture and their history with us, it's great because we're a melting pot, and we all come together. And, if you ever, like, this whole Corona thing definitely needs to come to an end, because if you get to feel the energy of a performance of somebody like Lava Man or Talpri, you'll
Amen,
realize
my brother. Amen, my
you'll
brother.
realize why Grenada is a force you don't play around with. You have to give them their big ups and their props. And I'm really proud of, I've watched how that event has grown over the years and seen the partnerships. And it's critical, for example, like making that step of working with the Toronto police. Typically, there's a disconnect that our community has with the police, but the reality is the police work for us. Our tax dollars pay them. So when I saw how the Grenda Day community was able to sort of form those partnerships, and allow some of our younger generation to not grow up with the same stigma against the police, it really shows how culture can be, a conduit towards change, being able to bring them in and share our culture, but also have, law enforcement there and show how we are all actually one community. So, as I mentioned, I just do my part to take that forward. And food, we all need food. And one thing I've learned, through this COVID experience over the last, couple months is food is the one thing that we all agree on. Siobhan mentioned, plantain. Plantain is something that almost any island you go to or any African country, plantain is actually like a staple of like a main dish. And that's why when we launched the Black Food Toronto program, plantain has been a staple of what we put in every box that we send out. And what's been amazing is, we've had people call us back saying, a young mom saying, growing up, my grandma used to fry plantain for me. And, when I got this box and it had plantain in it, I personally never fried plantain before, but I was able to contact family and figure out how to do it. And now I'm providing fried plantain to my children. So a simple act like that, providing something that culturally was important to her foundation, to her growing up, during this time of this challenging time, she was able to find happiness within a simple thing like being able to buy some plantain, and we purchase about 56 boxes of plantain every week and distribute that to families to make sure that, they can have a similar experience. So it's critical, and even just this simple call, I have not personally met these two individuals before, but obviously we're doing so much work that is interconnected, and it shows the greatness of our community.
Absolutely. And now, Siobhan, you can come in now. You can ask your questions, and then we will go at one round of conclusions of your remarks. But go ahead.
Okay, I was about to ask my brother there that spoke about Eglinton a question, because I don't want to be misinterpreted, but when I moved to Canada, Eglinton to me was described to me, it was portrayed to me as ghetto, right? So I would ask somebody, can you take me to Eglinton? And the response was, why you want to go there? They're so ghetto down there. Like they have they're down there, no productivity. These people are a waste of time. And then I got to go to Eglinton, and I went there a few times, and I've noticed that Eglinton literally is Afrocentric. It is the hub of Black people down in that area. And then you look at the news and you look at how it is being described and the stigma that is being attached to the area. And it, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering if it's because of the ethnicity of the people that dominates the area. And so I was wondering, what is it that your group is doing? And maybe we can help through our organization if we can. What is it your group is doing to change that mindset, to get rid of that stigma that is tainting Eglinton, because when I walk there, I walk like about 2 blocks, and I've noticed that most of the businesses there are Black owned. And even with the recent announcement of the support for Black owned businesses recently, I am not hearing of much people taking advantage. And when you look at the news, I'm wondering, why are they not taking advantage? Let's try and change the atmosphere. Let's change the culture. Let's change the way that they look at us. Let's do that through our businesses. And since Eglinton is such a popular Black dominated area, maybe we should start there.
Thank you. That's great.
100%. I think there is definitely anti-Black racism. And, you look at other parts of the city, business communities are supported by BIAs, business improvement areas. They have their locally elected board, and the boards, they maintain the cleanliness of the area. They hold events. They do things to beautify the space so people come and they want to shop and hang out and do all of these things. And it's not a coincidence that, on Eglinton, there are 2 pockets in particular where there's a large concentration of Black-owned businesses, by Keele and Eglinton going up the hill, and from, Dufferin going towards Marley and Eglinton West Station. In those areas, I personally don't feel like the BIAs have done a very good job of, even doing the basic services that they're supposed to be, of cleaning, keeping the areas clean, of making sure that the place is there's upkeep and maintenance. Like neighborhoods, they don't just stay clean by themselves. They don't clean themselves. Those are services that need to be delivered. And I think there's a deliberate intention to make the place look as rundown as possible, to completely neglect it, and to buy time, because what's coming down the pipeline is this LRT is going to open up, development is going to come, and these places that are being completely neglected, it's a gentrification strategy. You see it from our neighbors down south in the US. Neighborhoods completely get disinvested, completely neglected. It looks run down, and then that's where the investors come in. They build it up, and then it's like this whole revitalization thing. But the people that are coming in now look completely different from the people that were there before. In fact, those who were there before can't afford to live there. So that's what we're trying to mitigate. From a policy level, ensure that there are kind of safeguards in place so that Eglinton can reach its potential. Canadians love the Caribbean. So we have the Caribbean here in our backyard.
That's right.
So there's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be a place that is celebrated and,
Absolutely. And that's why we are celebrating now your work tonight. And I think our time is almost done. I will just ask you concluding remarks and then basically also I would like to thank, and I'll try also very quickly to read if there's a comment for those folks who are following us on Facebook Live, Faisal Hassan, NDP. Quickly, those of you who are joining us, thank you. And there's a quick comment here. Mukhtar says, it's great history where we had come from. You are great people, still you have African tradition. All of you, brother and sisters, all of you I took school at the African, but a lot of things. And that's where he ends his comments. I think that's the only comment here, but there are folks joining us and watching us. I thank them for joining us. I'll start again, maybe Romain, to conclude your concluding remarks.
Okay, so if you guys don't mind me going first.
Yes, sure, go, please.
Firstly,
yes, that would be great.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be able to represent the organization and to spread the word. And I think since we're so culture focused, my only hope is, and I think our hope in the group is that one day what we would see spring up somewhere, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be you, but what we hope to see one day is an a museum of Black history. I don't know where, because if we want to start keeping our history alive, we need to start with that.
That's a good idea.
As insignificant as it may sound, it will make a big dent. So hopefully one day we will be able to see a museum of Black history where our children would be able to go to learn about their ancestors and the great work that they've done. Secondly, I'm hoping that one day they would start teaching our history in school as opposed to teaching history that we think some of us are irrelevant, right? And for us to be able to teach our history, our own people have to be the ones teaching it, because forgive me, the majority don't know it. So you can't get the majority to teach what they don't know. So we need our people to be more educated and more informed about their own history to be able to teach their history, because we don't want it to die. We want to be able to rewrite the narrative. We want to be able to look back one day and smile at what they would have done and what we would have done. And we want to be able to smile at what our children are doing to ensure that Black history is not just something that you give attention to. And I'm going to say it again, once a year. It's something that is there for all to see and something that is appreciated the same way every other history is appreciated. And I'm inviting you guys to our next Grenada Day event.
We'll be coming, and I think that's also means also reflected and taught in schools, including in the curriculums, and that's also very good, excellent idea, Siobhan. I think, and then Romain.
Yep. Thank you, MPP Hassan, for inviting us to be on this panel tonight and to to share what we consider is a very great work for the benefit of our community. I just want to invite everybody to really just look out, pay attention to what's happening on Eglinton, to follow our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are looking towards the future, and we just really want to encourage our Black brothers and sisters to play an active role in building the future of Eglinton.
Absolutely, and it has to be also consulted. The community should be consulted. Any development that's coming to that corridor. Yes, Sakaya Tafari.
Before I go, Romain, can you just let us know what are the social media handles?
Yes, that's great. Yeah.
Brother, you put me on the spot. On Instagram, we are Black Urbanism TO. Black Urbanism _TO, sorry.
Toronto, it stands for TO, yeah.
TO stands for Toronto. On Facebook, it's Black Urbanism TO. You'll just find the group there. And on Twitter, it's at Black Urbanism TO, all one word.
Very good. That's excellent. It's like Faisal Hassan NDP. Be on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I asked because I know the history, I know the struggle that's been going on Eglinton, and I definitely want to make sure that I'm following that account and sharing with my followers as much as possible. I'll take this opportunity quickly. If you want to know more about the work the Afri-Can FoodBasket is doing, we are Afri-Can FoodBasket on Instagram. You can also visit our website, www.africanfoodbasket.com. And if you know anybody who's facing any food insecurities, looking for support, they can log on to www.blackfoodtoronto.com. All the information is there on how they can sign up and get on our waiting list to be able to receive one of these baskets. So again, I just want to thank you again, Faisal, for creating this space for us to be able to come and share and converse and celebrate. It has been great. And for me, I'm usually just busy working. This is one of my busiest days, but I was able to make time for you. So I really appreciate you helping me slow down.
Well, he works really very hard, and thank you. And Siobhan, quickly, do you have also a handle for your Instagram for Grenada Day, for Facebook?
As he said, you're putting me on the spot, but for Facebook, it's official Grenada Day Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Every word is all cap. right?
Yeah.
Official Grenada Day Festival. When you go onto that page, you will get a link to every other handle we have. And may I take the opportunity to say that we're also raising funds for our next event, because it's a nonprofit event, of course. And whatever we make goes back into the community, because we do, other than that, we do our children's Christmas party and stuff. So we have a setup that the link is also there where you can make a donation, right?
Very good.
So my closing words is, appreciating your culture, your tradition, and who you are does not make you racist. It's just an appreciation for you. And thank you for having me. Appreciating your culture and your tradition, your history does not make you a racist.
Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone for joining me, and those of you joining us live, Faisal Hassan, NDP. This evening, I want to thank participants, their contributions. To Chevron Benjamin, Grenada Day Committee, a member, Romain Baker, a co-founder of Black Urbanism Toronto, and Zekiah Tafare, African Canadian FoodBasket. The month of February is meant to shine a light on the contributions of Black Canadians, and as a proud member of the province's first Black caucus, I recognize that 1 month cannot encapsulate all the stories of greatness. I take the opportunity of sharing this history with me throughout the year, and I am proud to support the effort of local leaders like my guest and those of you who are also doing a fantastic job in our community of York Southwestern to ensure that we continue to add pages to the rich storybook of Black Canadian excellence. I thank again my guest, Zekiah and Roman, and also Chevron, and also those of you who are joining me live and have joined and have also listened tonight and have also commented. We are very sorry that we could not name your names, each and everyone who have joined tonight, but definitely you can also join me Saturday from 3 to 4, where I have, bring your coffee and tea, and actually it's an opportunity for you to ask me questions about our community and issues important to you, or just comment. And there I will be able to then share your comments on every Saturday from 3 to 4. Until then, my friends and my guest, thank you. And thank you to you also who have been joining us, Faisal Hassan, NDP, through facebook.com. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yes.